Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, certified brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
Yes, you are. And welcome to episode 134 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. This evening, Nate, it is just us. And we are doing something that we both very much wish we did not have to do.
Yeah, this is a bit of a somber one tonight, unfortunately.
We've had somber podcasts in the past, they're not the funnest, but this felt like something that we, not had to do as much, but really it was important to do this. If you are in Ontario and you've been following the scene over the last, decade, you would be very familiar with this brewery. Not that long ago, Barncat Artisan Ales out of Cambridge, Ontario, they announced somewhat vaguely on Instagram that they will be closing their doors permanently in, I believe it was at the end of August this year, 2023. That's right. So
they announced this on May 30th.
May 30th. Do you know what? Do you want to read the post? Do you think we should read the post?
Yeah.
Because it's not that long.
Sure, let's do it. On May 30th, they post on Instagram and just a nice and simple label, just their their sign on their wood panel wall there, and it says, "We've got some sad news to share this morning. At the end of August, we will be closing the doors of Barncat Artisan Ales. We will be continuing to release new beers into July and selling beer into August. We've had a blast making beer for you guys the past 7.5 years. We'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who has supported us over the years and those who continue to do so in our final months. If you're a brewery looking for equipment, send an email to barncatales@gmail.com for a list of what we will have available. Thanks again for everything, Matt and Jeremy."
So when that happened, that was obviously the talk of the scene. It was only 2 weeks ago, actually. So, it was very, very unexpected and out of the blue, at least for there's two people who were, Matt and Jeremy are the founders, co-founders, and brewers. So there's no one else in that business. So, I mean, it was, I haven't heard anything about any reasons why. They don't have to tell us why, which is completely fine. But tonight we decided that we should, and this was your idea, Nate, and because you were the Barncat aficionado from the beginning, I just didn't have access, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff tonight. So we picked up a few beers from the Durand bottle shop here in Hamilton, got them out to Nate. So we're going to go through 3 beers, a crispy, some haze, and a stout, because that is primarily what Barncat do, just to give a bit of an overview and just share some thoughts and anecdotes and stories and and just really express what it means, what they mean and meant to the Ontario craft beer scene, and how many brewers were inspired by them, and really what they've done for Ontario craft beer. So once again, wish we didn't have to do this, but it kind of feels right to pay tribute. And we didn't, to be clear, we didn't even approach the boys about being on. We did have Jeremy on episode 95 of this series, the Adjunct series. So you could go find that on YouTube and everywhere you listen to podcasts if you want to hear the story. And we just kind of felt like didn't want to bother them. I'm sure they probably didn't want to talk about all this shit. Like, they're closing their business down. They're losing their livelihood. They might not want to, it might come across maybe they're trying to promote it or something. So, hopefully they hear it and, understand what they mean to people. I'm sure they're aware, but it's always nice to hear, get your flowers as such. But, that was why we didn't even approach them about it. This is just something that Nate and I wanted to do, and I don't know, just drink some great Barncat beers that won't be able to ever get again.
While we still can.
And just, share some stories whilst wearing our gorgeous Barncat hoodies. Thank you again, Jeremy. This is a staple in my wardrobe. I love it. So, Nathaniel, what are we starting with, my man?
So, we are starting with Barncat Premium Lager.
Yes, indeed. Now, this was canned back at, I think it was March 22nd, 2023. Come on, fucking get it. Don't make me tap the screen. There we go. Look at that. I have had this one before. I don't remember when. Do we have it on the pod? We might have even had it on the pod.
No, we did not have this one on the pod.
Okay.
In fact, the crispy, so to speak, that we had on the pod was the ESB. I don't think we had a lager actually.
Right. And look, while we're giving crazy flowers, the fact that Jeremy sent us an ESB to have on the pod from a brewery as illustrious and hyped and beloved as Barncat was the coolest shit in the world to me. And I think I actually credit that for why I really, really like ESBs. I was already in the market for them. I fuck with them. But I kind of feel like that was just more like Barncat's cosign of ESBs made me love them more than anything else I could have imagined would have. So, I reckon that's a pretty amazing cosign right there that, they're bringing... I don't know, I wouldn't want to say that they were responsible, but they absolutely made me think they were cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So this lager, we're trying to get some info on it. Thingo, what's it called? Untapped didn't really say a lot. I'm going to go and double check again.
And neither did their Instagram post as well. I think maybe they were trying on purpose to keep it really plain and in description as to kind of just be a straight up crispy crusher.
Yeah, I think you might be right, and just not make a fuss. It just is what it is. I just checked. I actually had it June 7th, 2022, so almost a year to the day. I must have bought it right before. Oh, because that's when we came looking for this house. We bought the house that a few days, not too long beforehand. I did a Duran run, so must have had it then. Grabbed it. So even that, I really associate. I feel like we should take a sip, but I really associate Barncat now with Duran heavy because I was getting them as much as possible since we've been here and since I started coming here. So it's just gonna be weird to not be able to get this shit, man. So
yeah.
First beer. Cheers to Barncat.
Cheers.
Get that up here.
Ooh, the aroma on that's great.
Oh yeah. Nice, bready. Malty, it's sweet, so it's just a premium lager, 5%. Everything you would want out of a nice, classic, clean lager. A little bit of grassy bitterness in there, balanced malty sweetness, dry, super dry finish makes you want to come back for more. Just fucking beaut, mate. Bloody beaut. I love it. So like we said, don't really know anything about the hops or anything at all, and I almost feel like hilariously like this is like quintessential Barncat in the sense of their vagueness and mysteriousness seems to be like their kind of shit since they've been around. Like they've forever stayed that, kind of sort of had a tap room for a bit, and I don't believe they do now. And
I don't believe they're open for on-site consumption right now, but they did for a bit, only in the sense that they basically put up some put up 3 or 4 picnic tables in their retail store.
And that was it, eh? Okay,
that was it.
I wonder if it's still. I wanted to get down there and visit, even just beforehand, just for the sake of it, just grab whatever they had and just see the place and say g'day to them. I think I might try and do that still, but I hadn't actually got down there. But yeah, so this is basically, would it be fair to say the Barncat exclusively did lagers, haze, and IPAs, because I know they do West Coast too, and then stouts? Is that fair?
99.9%, I would say.
Barley wine.
I would say, yeah. I mean, they're obviously very big on barley wine as well. That was in in the heavy beers that they did along with the stouts. They did a Baltic Porter a couple of times, and I can think of one fruited sour they did. There's probably more. But yeah, almost exclusively Crispies, IPAs, and then big dark beers.
Yes, I'm just even quickly, as you're saying that, scanning through the IG, and nothing is pulling my attention to think that it's anything but all of those things. So, excuse me, pale ales obviously as well, and things like that.
Yeah. We're counting that in with the IPAs and whatnot.
Actually, looking at this, 20th of July last year, they had a draft only release. So as late as July last year, they had.
Okay, so they were still having on site at that point.
Good. Oh, and I see someone else here. They did a Brett Saison in a bottle, a 750.
Oh yes, oh yes. Yeah, you know what? They've actually done a couple of those now that now that I think about it. When they were doing more ball releases, they did have a few more saisons and things of the like. I remember like a good long while back. Um, this must have been like 2018, 2019, something like that.
Yes.
There was a saison that they did aged in gin barrels from Willibald, and that was and that was before I even really knew who Willibald were. That may have even been actually before they were a brewery. They may have just been doing the distilling at that time.
Okay. See, that's okay. So they've kept their offerings pretty, like, minimal, and I respect that because, at a brewery that small, they're doing what they care about, and I think that's super important for a brewery to be really, really true to that.
And
Not, you know,
yeah, and we again we know from having talked to Jeremy that like that's been their thing all along. Like I don't think they brewed a single beer they didn't want to brew.
which is full respect to that. They were like pioneers, which we'll get into. Um, and I don't know, it probably takes more balls to do that than to sort of bow to the market. And they were doing
Yep.
stuff that now is a no-brainer, but when they started doing it, it
Hmm.
was rolling the dice. And they built their
Yep.
brand off it, which is even cooler. And that's why it hurts even more, because Barncat got so
Yeah.
many people into haze in this province and beyond. And
Yep.
it's just fucking crazy.
And like they really like they were, as we know, like the first in the province, and definitely were one of the only for a good long while that were brewing something like on the very early like on the very early stages of like of that trend, and it was one of those things like they were so sought after because they were one of the only ones doing it, and they were also pretty hard to get your hands on, which like as you say we'll get into.
Yes.
um, before we go any further, just before it slips my mind, coming back to what you were saying with the like with kind of the vagueness and simplicity like
Yeah.
of their social media and whatnot, like that actually just reminded me, and as we were flipping through Instagram before, anytime they show their releases, it's so funny, like they say very very little about them, and like especially in this case with this premium lager, they said almost nothing about it other than
No.
basically it's a lager. But if and this is going back like going back as far as I can remember when they would announce their releases, if it's an IPA, these are the hops in it, this is the ABV, and that's kind of all you know about it.
That's
Like,
it.
there's not, there's not a mention of tasting notes. They don't really talk about the malt bill at all, like anything else. It's just straight up, like this is the beer, these are the hops,
Boom.
and
Done.
I kind of I respect that a little bit. Like I mean, I also like it when like when breweries will give more information, like something new about the process or like or what they think the tasting notes are and whatnot. But there's also something to be said for, you know, giving minimal information and letting the customer kind of make their own impressions, not like that aren't colored too much by the information that you're presented. Because as you and I both know, when you're told things like, like we taste, we taste this stone fruit and like and this berry in this one. As soon as kind of someone says those things, it starts to trigger the same thing in your head. Whereas if you're coming to it kind of from a blank slate, it forces you to kind of figure out for yourself what it is and not be prompted by anything.
That's a great point. I've funnily enough, Rosewood do that with wine now. They actually took away the tasting notes from all of their wine bottles and and just let the consumer decide what they're tasting, which I thought was kind of cool. So there's definitely something to that. I've talked to a few people about this and about Barncat. Not so much about the tasting side of it, but a few folks have said that they believe their mysteriousness, whilst initially that was the attractor. I don't know if this is much of a reference if you're familiar. The Weeknd, the singer, the R&B dude.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I know it's not your genre, but when he came out, like he came out in 2011, and when I worked at the Apple Store in Toronto, and I remember it being the biggest thing amongst all the people there because it was like a guy that was kind of co-signed by Drake. No one knew what he looked like. It was just this guy had this voice kind of like Michael Jackson doing these dark. His music back then does not sound like what it does now. Now it's all poppy like stuff. Back then it was this dark, haunting minor key R&B shit, and it was just the coolest. No one knew. And I went to his second show ever. His first show was at like the Mud Club in Toronto that like sold out in like minutes type of thing. And like that, and a lot of people have tried to replicate that type of mysteriousness in all different things, whether it's fashion or music or blah, blah, blah. And it works sometimes. And Barncat, whilst they weren't trying to hide anything, it was more just like this little hole in the wall, from what I understand, hole in the wall type of place where they just brew tiny little, setup, just making world-class shit ahead of their time. And if it's like, if you know, you know. So it was this like a coolness to that. And a few folks have suggested to me that it was like that might have ended up being their demise, where they didn't try to expand the business, didn't try to make more, didn't try and get sales or, have like a proper tap room or do any of those things. I don't know if that is fair or accurate criticisms. I don't know how I feel about it because I just feel like I kind of don't know enough, and I feel like you can only judge by asking them what their motivations were. What's your thoughts?
And I don't really want to speculate too much. Like especially on here, it would seem a bit rude and really unnecessary, because I mean, whatever, there are probably a number of factors that added up to it. Some of it could have been their approach to the business. That we'll never know. But we also know from talking to so many people in the business that beer sales are slumping pretty universally across the board. There's all kinds of issues with it, with rising ingredient prices and shifting consumer demands. All of these things undoubtedly played a part in it. And I don't think either of us really care to speculate any further on what specifically prompted this decision.
No, not at all. And I brought it up not to be disrespectful in any
way.
No,
I know.
Just to sort of that's what people said to, because when I was talking to people, that wasn't even the topic of the conversation. People brought that up to me, like 2 or 3 different people did, and I was like, okay, interesting. So I feel like people are thinking about that and talking about it, and I think they're doing it because they're sad about.
Yes.
Nobody wants this. I haven't heard anyone be like, yeah, good. Like everyone's like devastated about it. Everyone's really, particularly the industry. The industry folks are just like,
yeah.
Like I talked to Matt from Rorschach about it, and he was like, fuck, man. Like I don't think he even knows them. And it just, it hits home with a lot of people, because I bet all of the different people I've spoken to about it were would have to have been at the very least inspired by what they're doing. You can't be making beer at any sort of decent level in Ontario and not be aware of Barncat and be arguably be inspired by what they have achieved, in spite of those potential reasons that people are speculating about closure, whether it's their business practice or whatever, which I think is a testament to the quality of what they did and the passion that people had for the product. You can't buy that sort of hype or interest. No amount of marketing would ever result in that. That's just straight up fucking quality.
Yep.
Which is
absolutely.
And I think you're right. I think it's really, at the end of the day, like we meaning the entire beer industry and drinkers and everything, would have expected something like this to happen to multiple breweries, and still do. And it's I really, really hope not. I didn't, but Barncat was not the one that any of us expected. I think that was probably a lot of all of everyone's surprise, and your immediate question as a human is why, as in, like, can we fix it? Is there something we could do?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? That's where I think people are coming from, where they're just like,
Oh,
Oh
for sure. And
man,
and
like
yeah, like and you know, just to be clear, I wasn't like it's a completely a natural response to like to wonder what like to wonder why and what might have led to it. And
of course.
like you know, there's nothing disrespectful about that, about like about discussing it or wondering why. I was more just saying that like it feels unnecessary for us to do it here where we're kind of paying tribute to one of our favorite breweries in the scene. But of course,
Amen, brother.
you know, like wondering and speculating like about it people on their own. I'm not you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying there's not really much purpose served by us kind of digging too deep into that here.
Exactly. We're here to celebrate a legacy, and what a legacy these two gentlemen have created. One thing you
Indeed.
said to me the other day, which I thought was, and I didn't think of it until you said it, but you were like, every single brewery that we love has collaborated with Barncat and typically feel
Yes.
like a big, like their anniversary releases. Um,
Yep.
Everyone, Badlands, Third Moon, fucking Bellwoods, like
Hmm.
this. I know I just started blanking for a second, but there's like so many, and it was like every single time it was like, oh, Barncat Club, of course, it makes sense, and I
Yep.
know it's an honor for these breweries to, be to be able to work with them because they came.
Yeah.
Barncat came first, really.
Really, yeah. And it was one of those things of like collabs have of course become a lot more like a lot more commonplace now since 2020 with the like and then with the rise of virtual collaborations and whatnot. Prior to that, when like when collabs were a little bit fewer and farther between and kind of a bit like a bit more special in their like in their rarity.
Mm.
Um, it was one of those things of if one of your local breweries did a collab with Barncat, it was really, really exciting.
Yes.
Um, like I'm thinking back again around like must have been 2018, 2019, something like that. There was a collab that they did with Dominion City. Um,
Oh,
like and I remember like Ottawa was bumping for it. Um,
what was it? Do you remember?
it, yes, I do. So it was so they did two different versions of it, like one at Dominion and one at Barncat. The Dominion was called a Depot with fruit, and it was and it was a hazy double with passion fruit,
I had that.
and
Okay.
the Barncat one was a Depot with no fruit.
Gotcha. I remember that explicitly. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I had the Dominion one. I bet you got it for me.
I probably did.
Which is because I remember being, yeah, I had that. That was what? Oh, I've had it twice. 2019 April.
Okay.
Um, and that's so sick that I remember that now very very well. And like, yes, I was batshit for that beer. I was like, fuck yes, bro. Like, there was like a because Barncat, like for people who haven't watched and listened to the podcast with Jeremy, which I'd highly, if you're listening to this and you haven't, or watching this and you haven't checked that out, like once you're finished with this episode, definitely go check that out. Episode 95. It's called A Glass of Yellow Milk, which is a funny title because that's really what their beers are. Their story is great, and maybe we could even go to the reason why. You know what? Before we even go into why they're all sort of special and interesting, which I guess we're going to be hopping on for this whole episode, what was your first interaction or first sort of memory of Barncat, and how did you personally fall in love with them as a drinker?
Yeah. So going back to my kind of early days in the craft beer scene, and like so I'd already been interested in craft beer for like for a few years before I got into like the social media scene and like and kind of getting to know people like getting to know people in this like in the Ontario scene and whatnot. Um, so in the early days there, like you know, you start following like all of the breweries, and like as you kind of go along, you discover more and more breweries. Then your follower list goes up and up, and or your following list goes up and up rather, and you know you're getting to know all of the breweries in Ontario. Barncat like eventually came across at one point and start following them for a while, and once you get to start to know kind of people who are pretty active in local scenes and you start to see the stuff that they're posting and whatnot, and it became pretty clear pretty soon that like, okay, so this is the place that's brewing New England IPAs in Ontario,
Right.
and not like the, you know, you've at this point you've already kind of maybe heard about things like Heady Topper and Vermont IPAs and whatnot, but of course, once you started hearing about New England IPAs with this like big thick haze and whatnot, um, it was of course extremely eye-catching back in the day, and not a lot of people were doing it, short of say Bellwoods, who followed pretty closely after with things like Jutsu and Witch Shark and whatnot. But not a lot of people were doing it, and Barncats were again pretty eye-catching because it looks like a big like a glass of thick turbid orange juice, which is very eye-catching and, you know, pretty rare, and pretty rare at the time, of course. So you start to get pretty keen to try it after a little while when you're seeing it, and you know, being out in Ottawa when that, like, this is back in the days, of course, when they were only doing growler fills. They weren't canning anything at that point for quite some time. So it's like, so I was just seeing it there, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know when I'm ever going to get to try this. But then at one point, my best friend who lived in Kitchener at the time, one time when I went to go visit him, he'd been hyping up Arabella Park to me, which is a fantastic beer bar, one of my favorite beer bars. Like literally anywhere I've been, they're on a short list for me. And we were at Arabella Park, and for those who don't know, they've got this big blue board behind their taps that as one keg gets tapped, they'll basically just wipe out the white marker and write in the next one that goes on. And as we're there, and you know, we'd had our first beer and our food and whatnot, and I'm watching the board, and I see someone wipe one off, and what they write in next is Barncat Artisan Ales 36-inch chain, and I'm like, yes, now's my moment. I'm finally gonna get to try a taste of this. So ordered that immediately. This was my first taste. 36-inch chain is I don't know if I'm gonna remember the hops off the top of my head.
I'll find it.
I feel like it's Nelson and something else. But in any case, tasted absolutely fantastic.
Citra and Nelson.
Citra and Nelson. Okay.
Yeah.
Huge, bold hop flavor like nothing I'd ever tasted before. And I was already kind of like, you know, mysteriously following them, but at that point, after first taste, I just in love from there.
They lived up to the hype immediately, right?
It surely did. They surely did. And
amazing.
it was a bit of a tease at that time, of course, because then after that taste, I head back to Ottawa, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know I don't know when I'm ever going to taste that again.
Those completely pre-cans. It was growlers only.
Yes.
Okay. And
yes.
When was this approximately, do you think?
This would have had to have been sometime in 2017 or 2018.
Okay. So they would have been open. They opened in 2016. So I believe
so they would have been open for a year or two at that time.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I remember they did their first IPA, which we'll get to around April 2016, was what Jeremy told us. So
yeah,
just for context, that's where we're sitting.
Yep.
Okay, so they've been around for a couple of years, really generating hype, predominantly in the Tri-Cities, but obviously that spreads via social media and via word of mouth and such.
Yeah, exactly. And as anyone who was kind of involved in in craft beer Instagram in Ontario at that time, trading between beer Instagrammers was very, very common practice at that point, with beers being being shipped across the province for because the online stores weren't a thing back then, independent bottle shops weren't a thing back then. If it wasn't in your city and it wasn't in your local LCBO, you didn't have any way to try it. So trading became pretty common, and I got into that for a little while in those first couple of years. And became virtual friends with a very nice dude who many people in Ontario will probably know, Chad, whose handle is Bad Chatter on Instagram. Um, and he was my Barncat hookup for probably for almost 3 years, I
Damn.
would say, before before it started to become a little more accessible through independent bottle shops, because they never did online shipping themselves, but most of the big shops, like you already mentioned, Durand, got all of their releases. Bevy Bira had all of their stuff for a while. Places like the Wheeled
Sidewalk.
Brew would
Yeah.
would certainly get all of their stuff. So then it started to be to become a little more widely available. But that back in those trading days, Chad was my guy, and hooked me up fairly regularly, and some really tricky ways too, because, and I think I mentioned this on the pod with Jeremy, but there was at least twice where he even managed to send a growler, one of these old school Barncat growlers, that used to be the only way they would serve. He would send one of these to me through the mail,
That's so cool.
which is quite a feat of some very careful packaging, and to get that there. Um,
Sure
so
is.
yeah, so Chad kept me kept me going on that for a good while, and was very kind. That reminds me, I think the first growler he sent me was actually a Badlands collab, because that was it was one
Ooh.
called Catlands.
I'm
And
pulling
this
that
was
up.
even before I had any idea who Badlands was. There must have been very early days for them. And Badlands, who would then become what they are now. That's quite a thing that they did a collab way back then.
Yeah. I'm trying to find Catland. Was it 2 words?
Um,
No, here it is. I
that's
got
a
it.
good question.
8.3%. It had Cara Cara oranges, and it was with
Yes.
mosaic, and it was
Yep.
2018. People were posting it in 2018. Obviously, no cans. All of these pictures are just
Growler
glasses and
pours.
growler pours, and it looks fucking hazy as shit. Looks gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was something special, and again, in the episode, in our chat with Jeremy, I know we mentioned their first canned release, which of course was Triple Simcoe. Um,
Yes.
Quite a fucking bold beer for their first can release, and I remember Jeremy saying he wanted to do something big and bold that would that would kind of hold up in cans really well. Um, and yeah, that was a huge beer. And Chad surprised me with that one. He didn't even tell me it was coming. It's just I like one day I get a parcel showing up at my door from Chad, and I lost my mind when I opened it and saw that it was a can of Triple Simcoe.
Did you get that for me? Because I've had it, and it was 12th of May 2018, and it was my first ever Barncat, and I thought it was from you because I feel like you were always my
You know
Barncat
what?
plug.
I don't think that was from me. I think you
Interesting.
had that when you did your pod with Hillary.
So I thought that too, but that was in November,
Oh, was it? Okay.
and that's
Hmm.
why I have that growler, which I will talk about that experience after. But I think that was all growlers with her. We had like 4
Okay.
growlers, and that Matt from Barncat hooked it up and gave them to her so that we could do the pod. So I've, have
Okay.
been that was
Yeah,
20.
I don't.
So
Yeah,
someone,
I don't think you would have gotten Triple Simcoe from me, because I only had the
you
one
know what?
can from Chad from that release.
What I do, fortunately, one of the things I really like when I do my reviews, I always write who I got it from. I always like, cheers to Nate for sending this
Yeah.
through. And I'm trying to find, if I search my handle, Barncat, if I search my handle and the name of the beer on,
Mm.
oh shit, I did say thanks to Hillary. Okay. This is, this is the first one. So it was that one, and it was thanks to Hillary. So Hills and Hops, I guess she must have had a personal account or something.
And is Hillary in the picture, with you in that
No,
one?
no, she's
Okay, so it
not.
wouldn't have been on the podcast then.
No, the podcast, I distinctly remember it being November 2018 because this was my
Hmm.
first time. So we must have done a trade. Oh, I had it before you because you commented to say, "Oh my god, it sounds so good."
Okay.
So that's really, and I said to you, might still be able to trade.
Hmm.
What does that mean? That's vague. I responded to your comment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you were saying like I think you were just saying like might still be able to grab it if I'm able to trade with somebody.
Ah, that makes sense because it's a triple IPA. They last longer and blah blah blah. Okay, so that's where I got. So I want to. Sorry to interrupt that. I just want to clear that up. That's super interesting
Yeah,
to
no, that's
me.
okay. I'm glad we got to the bottom of it, and I'm glad I was right.
Yes, you are correct. I know you have a, pretty exceptional memory when it comes to all this stuff, so I always trust your memory over mine. But it's cool. Just to chat. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I remember that. So that was great. So I got introduced to them from their first ever one, and you'd been having multiple growlers since then. I always remember being jealous of you. Like, fuck, man, I really need to get a plug out there. But
Yeah.
it always seemed sort of a large ask to get someone to be, hey, can you get a growler of this from this little place
Oh,
and
geez. Yeah.
tighten it up and make sure it's in a plastic bag and doesn't spill and blah blah blah. Like it's so risky. The fact that it made it in any sort of decent condition to be drank is kind of a miracle if you think about it.
Yeah.
In growler.
It's also it's so funny too to to think back now, um, that like one of the top tier purveyors of haze, and it was only available in growlers at the time, and we know kind of how prone New England IPAs can be for hop flavor falling off at as time passes and whatnot. Even in cans, a little worse for bottles, but definitely worse for growlers. The lifespan is much shorter.
Significantly. Like I was always told growlers are typically best within 48 hours, and sometimes anything
Yeah.
more than that's a little rough.
And particularly ones that are tap filled, which these ones were, they can have a bit more lifespan if they were counter pressure filled. I mean, it's not much of a thing anymore
Uh,
because almost no one uses growlers anymore. But yeah, there was a distinction between the ones that were tap filled and the ones that were counter pressure filled.
Gotcha. Didn't even think about that. I'm glad you brought that up there. That's good. So that means they were really like, hey, drink this today type shit, really, is
Oh
what
yeah,
they're probably trying to say.
yeah.
Okay, so you were really like introduced by the homie, and then you got the cans, and then things started to get sort of a little more easier access. And I feel like around that time, that's when I remember you. Or then after that, you were the one who plugged me. Probably the following year, because I think that the Triple Simcoe was truly like a one-off.
It
Like,
was.
and then
This was yeah. This was before they had their own canning line. So there was a time when when canning jobs for them were like really one-offs, like they maybe would have done like one every couple of months or something like that.
why do you think they did Jeremy say? And I'm asking you just because you have a better memory, but do you recall either knowing why or Jeremy telling us why they decided to start canning at least, or at least can occasional releases?
I don't remember why. So that's it. So that's, motivation for folks to go back and listen to that episode. But
There we go.
I have a feel,
Episode
but I have
95.
a feeling it was probably that they probably wanted to be canning more. It was just, I imagine it was probably just a matter of logistics of lining up the mobile canner, every however often and whatnot. And that of course became easier once they got their own canning line and were canning every release they put out.
Yes, absolutely. Were you? And I feel like I kind of interrupted the story. Were you sort of finished when we were talking about the
Yeah,
triple
yeah.
Simcoe?
So no, I didn't really have much else to to the story from there because then it dovetailed into just doing regular trades with Chad and with my friend Jeff, who was also living in KW and would be able to get regular drops and we would trade for those and whatnot. But anyway, where I was coming around to with that is like because of kind of those friendships that I built like around that time, and kind of how scarce they were, and how hard they were, like how hard they were to get, and kind of how groundbreaking they were in Ontario at the time.
Mm.
And particularly at a time when I was coming into the scene early on, they were such a big part of like of my early days of the craft beer scene. So that, like, that's one of the reasons that they'll always hold a special place in my heart. Um, like, not just for kind of me pining after them, and like, and really wanting to try them, but the times that I did get to try them were so special. And like, I've got
Mm.
some very specific, like those very specific memories of how they came about, the first taste, and like, like making friends through like through just kind of going nuts over them and whatnot. There, so like, so it's very meaningful to me. They're a very important brewery in like in my early days of the scene. So that's just one of the reasons that they mean so much to me, is kind of the memories that they like that they bring up for me of those times.
That's great, man. I love that, and I feel like it's even just hearing you sort of say that. I really feel like it even makes me think of that same sort of feeling of back when it was. I mean, it's still kind of not easy to get your hands on a lot of different beers, but getting your back then when haze in it of itself in Canada was rare, and good haze was even rarer. Getting to try something as incredible and impeccable and world class as Barncat, that was previously just in growlers, and you had to go to Cambridge, and you're in Ottawa, I was in Montreal, was like there was this feeling from that was just like fuck. Like it's sort of almost hard to explain now. I feel like we don't really get that as much of like really getting your hands on some sort of a, what do you call it, like not a grail, but just something that's just so fucking rare, and like you're like, wow, man, I'm really fortunate to be drinking this right now, type of shit. And that feeling is like, I don't know, it's like something that I feel like we get it from time to time, but now everything feels less special because of the prevalence, perhaps. I feel like it's hard for anything to be incredible unless you've got like my grail right now was double dry hop Pliny, because I've failed twice to get it and lost money, and I'm like, I mean, no, I'm going to get it, but when I do, goddamn, it's going to be sweet. But I don't really have anything else. Like, it was great the first time I went to Monkish. I'm like, oh my God, I get it. Okay. And the first time I went to Other Half, all these different places, Russian River itself, and the Vale,
Like
and
the first taste of Heady
the
Topper,
first taste
and
of head. Oh, Jesus Christ. That was, I had that in like 2012. A guy at Apple gave me a can because his brother lived in Burlington, and I had no idea what it was. And I knew it was special, but I didn't know shit. I'd been into beer
yeah.
like a year, not even a year and a half. And so I was way too early to be drinking something that fire. But over time, you appreciated it more and going there and such. So, like, yeah, there's something to be said. I feel like Barncat represent that for a lot of people. Even though by the time I got it, I guess it was 2018, and I knew about them for 2 years, like, it didn't make it any less special. So you'd been drinking it,
Yeah.
knowing how special it was, getting those growlers but then it still didn't matter, and it kind of always holds that, and doesn't make it any less special. Now it was a little easier to get, with the canning and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about the next one?
Yep, let's do it. It's time.
So this one's new to me. So now we're moving into haze territory.
So this here, I'm pretty sure is actually a complete brand, like a complete brand new one. Like they do redo a lot of their beers, but this one I'm pretty sure is a brand new one, because and we'll tee it up here. It's called the OG IPA. Because it is a collab with the Old Galt Bottle Shop, and it's specifically for their second anniversary. So so this one is a brand new one.
Okay. Which is very, very cool as well, because, OG, Old Gold. So to me, when I first saw this, I thought that it was it was like their first one, but their first beer was Eminence.
Eminence.
Eminence. Okay. Collab with Old Galt Bottle Shop. Okay, which is Galt is obviously a one of the cities that turned into Cambridge.
Exactly.
Now this particular beer rocks the OG IPA. I had this up before. Here we go. This one has Citra Nelson. Fucking what a combo, mate.
Indeed.
This may be... So basically it's June. We've still got another solid probably month and a half of releases. So hopefully there's a few more haze bombs. There's still...
So this here, just like I guess a smaller version of 36-inch chain, really.
I guess so, yeah. You're right.
And mind you, they even did a pale ale version of that because they did 18-inch chain not too long ago, which was a pale ale version. Because 36-inch chain is is the double, and I guess they didn't say this, but also being a Citra Nelson one, I mean, it's in a way it's it's kind of the little sibling of 36-inch chain. That's just what I'm saying.
My guess is probably for dudes like this, it's probably quite intentional. Like it wasn't something that they just decided to do. So
no, I'm sure.
I'm really hoping for more for more haze up until the end times.
I'm sure there will be.
That'd probably be the majority of it. So this obviously pours like a glass of yellow milk. Huge nose, definitely smells like Nelson. That white wine gooseberry thing is pungent, aromatic.
It is.
Shall we cheers?
There's some dank in here too, and like Nelson is always good for for creating dank notes. I'm definitely getting some of that on the aroma as well. So yes,
glorious. Cheers, Matt and Jeremy, legendary.
Oh, there's a lot of citrus on the nose too on this one. Like I'm getting like orange zest kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Citra and Nelson. Wow, this is fantastic.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck, that's great.
Bright, like a white grape. Yeah, white grape and citrus nose. Yeah, man, like this is like, it's just textbook haze. Do you think that would you say that it's fair? And I'm pretty sure it is. Like they've been very, very, very consistent over their 7 years in business.
Yeah, I would say so.
Mm.
An interesting thing that I think I would note, and we could probably there's probably a lot of this that we could chalk up to just drinking beers that had been sitting in growlers for longer than they should have. But like I think back in the day, we were used to drinking haze with lower carbonation, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And which makes a lot of sense if something's sitting in a growler for more than a day or two. The carbonation is obviously gonna go pretty quickly. Like at that point with growlers just not having the same quality air tightness that a can would have. And I remember haze drinking kind of heavier in the day. But now with all of them canned, there's a much better carbonation to it. And something that I've been noticing lately with places that are really dialing in their haze is the carbonation kind of really being done on point, which complements the kind of the creamy body in a way that has it that still doesn't sacrifice any of the smoothness of that body, but it just lightens it up a little bit so that it doesn't drink quite as thick and heavy as it might as it might have used to.
Yeah.
So if you were drinking like a Barncat IPA from a growler that's maybe been in there for like a week or more at that time, and you were to drink the same beer canned today with no other changes, I have a feeling they would be drinking quite differently.
Yeah. I definitely agree on that one. You make a good point about this. As you were describing that, I noticed that the body was it's plenty going on, but it's still restrained enough that it feels light whilst feeling like super creamy. So it's like you're getting all the smoothness from it without maybe it being a little too filling or over the top. I mean, that's maybe that's their whole power, their expertise is sort of nailing that the quality of the body without sort of leaving you just like bloated, because that's one downside of these beers. They do actually, they're very, very filling, high calorie gems, but it's like, it could even, like you said, the carb too. It's just the right amount of carb.
And I think that's been true of of all of the places that in the province that do haze really, really well. Like Badlands, from the point that we've been drinking them pretty regularly, have always had impeccable body. And I think they've really, really got the right balance between carbonation and and just the mouthfeel of their haze, because it's definitely like smooth and creamy, but sometimes if the carbonation is not quite dialed in, that can really drink thick and heavy. But I've noticed, and that's something that Third Moon has improved quite a lot in the last 2 years, I would say. Their stuff used to drink a bit thicker and creamier, but in the last 2 years, the texture of of their haze has improved by leaps and bounds, and and I can say that that's definitely the case with with this OG IPA here, is that it's kind of right in line with what we've just been talking about, of the carbonation is really working well with the smoothness and creaminess of the body of the beer.
Agreed. I don't know if we mentioned it's 6% as well, so it's intent when we're saying light, it's drinking extremely flavorful for the ABV, like it's,
yes,
which is fantastic.
Yep.
I wanted to sort of just tap in from your story before and just sort of maybe just express some of my experiences, a little bit more shallow than yours as far as the volume of them, because of just more pining as opposed to accessing. But I must have found them sometime in 2016. I got pretty obsessed with haze. Jeremy did tell us the first haze they ever brewed in Ontario was Eminence in April 2016, which basically means they probably came out the gate with it, because he discovered haze in 2015 because he was traveling a lot, which is very, very cool. And obviously, I'm in Montreal. When I came to Toronto, the last thing I was really going to be able to do was go drive that 45 to an hour to Cambridge to go to this random place that's open for 5 hours a week and try and line up and get a growler of some beer when I've got so many other things to do. And it was a little more difficult. Now I'm here in Hamilton, it's very possible, but I guess it's a different, the need is gone. So I was never able to do it, never really was able to do any trade. So I got that kind of, I must have done a trade with Hillary. I have a vague memory of it now in 2018, so that's dope. So I finally got it. I'm not a big fan of triples, but I was like just happy to get Barncat, and obviously it was impeccable. I do recall then after that you were able to get your hands on the more cans every time we did a trade. Sometimes we do it and we just be like, I think we used to just be like volume. We just trade for the fuck of it, and you would always just throw I'd pull out like a surprise Barncat. I was like, yes, Nate, you the fuck up. So I didn't trade with many people. It was very few. I didn't trade with people that I considered kind of, basically friends, or at the very least like closer acquaintances, because I was never interested in the fuckery that came with trading that I heard some stories.
Oh yeah, it could get weird at times. I had a largely good experience with it. There's one or two bad experiences that I had, and not to divert from your story too much, but after a couple of those, I definitely trimmed it way back and was only trading with good friends. Chad was one of the ones that I held on to a bit longer, and we did finally meet in person at Barncat, funnily enough.
Oh yeah.
A few years later, but he was one of the only ones that I initially started trading with that I kept up a trading relationship with for a little while.
when you got a good one, and even if you don't know each other like that, and you're just sort of like just cool, and you take care of him, he takes care of you, as far as like no one's trying to screw each other on money or volume, and like, hey man, this bottle is worth blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, no, it cost me $12.
Yeah, none
so
of that.
pay me $12 or whatever. Like, you know, all of this is such bullshit. I hate that stuff. It's so much. That's why I trade with you, and I got another like one, maybe two people, and that's it. Like, it's nice and easy. So yeah, I remember that a lot. I did so we mentioned Hillary from Pretty Prenny, who's obviously the chains that we're wearing now. Obviously, she's not really doing this stuff anymore, unfortunately. But man, rest in peace to all of these businesses. Fuck. But Hillary came through to Montreal in 2018 because she did a pop up at Catharagin and somewhere else. I think maybe it was Ottawa the day before. Maybe it was Dominion.
Yeah. She came to do Beyond the Pale after that.
Beyond the Pale. There we go. So she came through and she stayed over at our place, and we went out, had some drinks, and we came back and did a pod. And the pod is when she brought Barncat beers. I pulled it up here. It was episode 114 of the original series podcast. So that was the first lot. Right now is the Adjunct series. So that was the original one. And the ones that she brought, which I probably have to even check because I didn't write the style, but the one was called Larry, Stab Ghost, Everything in Yellow, and Breakfast at Twilight. So my guess was that all of those were haze. Do you know what though? I'm not gonna lie. I have a feeling one of them might have been a saison of some sort.
I think Everything in Yellow must have been because that name rings a bell to me.
I'm gonna double check right now. Everything in Yellow. Why didn't I check into that shit? No, you're right. Saison. Yeah, blue with
That's
mild.
that's the one with Willibald. This is the one I was just talking about. Like, it's even got the yellow Willibald label on the bottle.
Okay, I'm gonna check into it because I didn't have it in there. I'm gonna check into all these if they didn't do it. So the Everything in Yellow was that. So that was a bottle because I had it in a growler, so they must have done it.
Okay, well,
afterwards.
it may have been released in growlers as well, but take a look here. Like like if you just Google it, there's a bunch of pictures on Untapped where it's got this Willibald label with the Barncat label printed over it.
Okay, well, it looks like Breakfast at Twilight was an imperial porter, which is pretty cool. I guess that makes sense. Barncat Breakfast because there's got a couple of beers with it. Breakfast at Twilight. That was a bottle. Oh, so maybe we did have bottles. Barncat will put everything because maybe I had that Willibald. I had the bottle. I had that exact bottle.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think at that time, like haze was in growlers, and usually anything that wasn't haze was in bottles. If there was anything that was
Gotcha.
like stouts, saisons, porters, etc., barley wines were all in bottles.
So there's one called
which makes sense actually.
Yeah, Stab Ghost. So that must have been that was a growler, and that Stab Ghost was a double IPA, 8.6 with Nelson and Mosaic. I just remember all of this shit just being like fucking wildly fire, like just stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wouldn't have checked in on Untapped on these. I don't like that because it's not telling me like what I've had or not. And then Larry, I feel like was like a lighter.
I feel like that must have been a pale ale or something.
Yeah, it sounds super familiar. Larry was. Oh, there's Larry 6.8% IPA. There's Larry, Baby Larry, and King Larry, Centennial and Moteca, which is an interesting combo. But those were the 4 beers I had with Hillary, and I was just like, this is just fucking crazy. So once again, shouts to the guys for hooking that up back in the day, which is just really cool because I'd spoken to Matt. So it's funny because we did the pod with Jeremy, but I'd never had any conversations with Jeremy. I'd spoken with Matt, and we always talked about doing the pod, but that was back when we only did it in person. This was 2018. So then getting all the cans and everything. But one of the other memories that I have that also made, this is coming into kind of what you were talking about before about the sort of like that pining for something and just sort of like really appreciating it, was there was this dude, he's not really active now, but this guy Sid on Instagram. He was a beer Instagrammer and he lived in Cambridge, I believe, or Guelph or something.
Yeah, formerly Raja Brew, I think was his handle.
Yes, and he lived next door to Adam BrewHead, who also isn't active anymore. I said, fuck, is anybody active, Nate? Is it really just me and you? Fuck. We're just talking about everyone who's not doing all this stuff anymore. That's fucked up.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Look, beer is a tough thing to be in, bro. It's makes you fat
Yeah.
and it's alcohol, but I don't know. It's hard to
Sid, yeah,
when you love it, you love it.
Sid was a funny one because I remember he was one that we like that we used to poke fun at with like back when Team
Lactose.
Lactose and Team No Lactose was a thing.
He hated the lactose, which was very funny. So he's got sort of mad, but I had a lot of real conversations with him. I really liked Sid. He was a great dude. And
Yeah, I remember one time he did he did a video post on Instagram that showed him pouring a Barncat growler into a glass in the snow. And he would just
I
kind of like
remember that.
dumping the whole thing, and like the glass fell over and it spilled, and everyone was losing their mind. And and I remember we were texting back and forth saying like, I guarantee this is a gag. He just like filled that with orange juice or something and did that.
I think
And
he did.
and
I think it was.
the comments were blowing up. And then I think after like 6 hours or something like that, he caved and said like,
Okay.
yeah, this this was just a joke. I didn't actually pour out any Barncat.
I honestly I forgot about that, but now I distinctly remember that post. And Sid knew the Barncat dudes, and he was one of the guys. They had this beer called Pulp, which was I don't know if it was single or double IPA, but it had clementines in it. So they got the community around them to come in. I guess I just fed them beer for the day. And they peeled,
I think Chad was there too for that.
For that, that's amazing. Fuck, that would have been sick. And they, if I'm not mistaken, they peeled the clementines to put the insides into the beer or whatever the fuck, whether they crushed them and then put the juice in or whatever it was that they did. But they got people to come and do it because whenever they have, fruited beers, I know Bellwoods has 800 million people like, pitting peaches and apricots and nectarines for the barn ales and all that stuff. So I remember that. I remember just being like, oh my God, I want this so bad. It was just because when 2016, I must have discovered them in 2016. I wish I could see when I followed them on Instagram to know, but I just know that I was obsessed with haze then, and you just couldn't get it. And I remember, so do you know what? It could have been 2017, to be honest, for that.
Oh shit! There's a raccoon on my. Oh, there's two raccoons on my back porch right now.
What are they doing?
Okay, there's three actually.
Whoa,
Holy shit! There's like a little parade going on.
Do they want some Barncat? Is that what's up?
Yeah, I guess they're hearing me talk and they're peeking in at me now.
They're like, oh, who wants some of that haze, bro? That hard to get.
Yeah.
About to be
Or
extinct haze.
maybe they thought this was a bandit podcast.
But that would have been kind of perfect if it was, wouldn't it? You would have probably turned your camera around and be like, look, guys. That's fucking hilarious. But I remember that them doing that pulp beer, just being like, this is the coolest shit in the world. Like, their beer was the first that I'd ever seen to be just that murky. Like the real yellow milk shit. They were the first to do that. And it was just always so cool to me. I was always so like jealous of anyone who got hold of it. It was just like, at the time, Quebec didn't have anything that even compared. July 2018, Messorem opened, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2018, and 2019 was the Brewski tap room. But previous to that, Quebec basically were just against haze, and they were proactively like stopping it, and it was driving me fucking crazy. So like Messorem was everything that I was very, very vocal about it. Messorem was everything I wanted to happen, and Brewski followed up quickly after that. I didn't realize they were going to do that level because I had them on the pod in 2016 or 17. Maybe it was 18, I don't know. And they were not doing anything like that at all. They had a few like IPAs and shit, but they weren't like, they were contracting.
No,
so
and not even packaging that much. I remember because I remember the first beer that they put in cans and that was being distroed was that Peanut Buster one, and that was
contracting.
and that was kind of it. But then they became like they're cracking some of the best haze in Quebec right now.
Easily. I just had one last night thanks to you, and it was disgusting. It was so good.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's just impeccable.
I've not had like that kind of intense citrus in in a hazy before. I thought like that one was really, really intense in the best way.
It's so good. It's just brilliant. So like at the time, like all I could do was like we were traveling a bunch. By then I'd had my work permit, and I might have even had PR around. I can't remember. I got PR in 2017, so I was able to travel a lot because it was a big period of time where I wasn't able to travel. And so we were traveling as much as we could, going to Vermont a lot and New York and blah, blah, blah. So I was always getting haze elsewhere, but it didn't stop me wanting to find that at home, and there was no reason I shouldn't have been able to. So I always used to go to Ontario and bring Bellwoods back, or bring, what else was it? Probably just Bellwoods at that time. I know I went to Bellwoods every single trip. Like, they were like my favorite brewery forever. And no one else is really doing it because Barncat was just so like impossible to get, and I couldn't always spare that amount of time to go all the way to Cambridge and back again. It was just too hard from Toronto. So yeah, it was just like them. Barncat going into cans was just so dope, so fucking dope to me. Yeah, because then it was just so like, oh man, it was just like this treat that you couldn't get for so long. Now it's just like relatively easy in comparison to access.
It is pretty easy to get now, and I mean it really depends on your city, and kind of what the bottle shop situation is, like in your city. Like we've in Ottawa, we've kind of got few options for it, like because we've got the Dominion City corner store, but they don't have Barncat regularly. It's
right.
Shouts to Andrew Farrell, who's the dude there, like a good friend of ours, who
Andy,
who does a lot of stocking the corner store there, and it's usually him driving around the province and and getting shit from from these breweries directly to stock the store. So it's only when he's able to get out to Cambridge that they get Barncat there. They do get them, but it's few and far between.
Gotcha.
But so and we don't have kind of the same level of store like a Durand in Ottawa. I know that
anyway.
I know out in the way west end of Ottawa at the Cheshire Cat, they've got a really good bottle shop there. I've not been there in a little while, so I don't know what their Barncat stock is like, or if they get the regular releases.
Right.
So just like I'm saying, we don't have a Durand type sitch, but if you're in Toronto, for instance, you've got 4th and 7 at the Society Clubhouse.
Yes.
Which they're regularly stocked with Barncat. They probably have every release. If you're near Bevy Beer, they definitely get every release. And really anywhere in Ontario, you can actually order online from Bevy Beer, and you can do the same from the Wheel Brew, who we know also get every Barncat release. And we know there's the Wheel Brew does ship, yes.
Fuck, did we talk? I'm always drunk, but hopefully, if we talked about that, you should check that episode out. That came out like a week or two ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we talked about that. I mean, we definitely talked about the Haze House glasses, which they also have available to ship. Which we're both rocking for this beer right now because it's the Haze.
What's your favorite glass? I love
it so
much.
Also, look at the lacing on this beauty.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's gorgeous.
That's a good marker right there.
Look at that. This is just quality. Yours is actually really good. I guess that glass is made for a little more than this one, but
yeah.
This is just such
also something we should probably mention, like we've talked about before on on a lot of these podcasts where we've got breweries on and we're crushing between 4 to 6 beers and whatnot. We very often will drink maybe half of each one, half to 3/4 or something like that, so that we can keep it rolling without getting too tanked.
Yes.
We're doing 3 beers tonight, and since since we're kind of having the short list of our last tastes of Barncat, I'm drinking every last sip of these. It's not not a single drop of this is going to waste tonight.
And there's no chance. And the next one is a very big beer, so I want to take my time. Both of us want to take our time with that. So I think we didn't even talk about this, but I imagine we're both going a little harder on these two, just kind of crush them and enjoy it, but crush them, and then have the last one as a bit of a sipper.
Yeah, and we both had you've had the last one already too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. We both had the last one before, and we love it. And it's gonna be a good closer and a good one to savor.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, man. It's great. I'm gonna tell my brother, because my brother's in Toronto, and he was asking me about Badlands the other day. He's like, "Oh, next time you go, let me know." I'm like, "Oh no, I don't go to Badlands. I go to Durand, but you could go to 4th and 7th, or you can go." So I was gonna try and give him a few shops in Toronto because I don't think he's not as familiar. Once he goes, I think he'll be like, "Oh, I don't think he's seen them yet," because I still feel indie bottle
He's going to
shop
lose
thing.
his mind. He's going to lose his mind.
I'm like, it's worth paying the premium to get single cans of all of
It
these
is.
beers rather than pay the $10-15 shipping from everything. But it supports two businesses now. It supports the breweries directly because these bottle shops go and pay retail at the brewery, so they're not losing out. Then the bottle shops chuck $1 or $2 on there, and that to me is so fucking worth supporting.
Oh, it's absolutely worth it. And
It's
like
the
like
best.
there's no losing for it. Like really,
Nothing.
it's win-win-win because, like you say, the beers are purchased like usually at retail. You're getting like $1 or two to go towards the bottle shop, and really, it works out in the customer's favor to be able to buy single cans from multiple breweries to not have to hit like a $50 like minimum order limit plus shipping on top of that. And you could you can walk away with a 6-pack or an 8-pack from 2 or 3 of your favorite breweries, like just getting single cans of whatever you want. Like no one loses there.
None, and it's literally the best thing that's happened to this province. I can't express it enough. Like, that's why it was great to have Evan from the Wild Brew on. Like, what was that, episode 130 or 129? I think.
Yeah.
I should double check that just to be really safe because I want to make sure I let y'all know because we've been actually pumping out the episodes recently. 130, and it was just really great to have that conversation. We're definitely going to try and focus on a few more stores coming up because this is something that we're both very passionate about and really want to support. But yeah, Barncat, I think really, I feel like the stores, even though, when did that start? 2020 or, excuse me, 2021, do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't say when exactly it started. I want to say it was probably in 2020, but who knows?
So within the last 2 to 3 years, I
Yeah.
feel like those stores have definitely been a big success marker for breweries like Barncat, and beyond for people, in Toronto who might not have, like Third Moon only do the shipping Sundays. I'm pretty sure that's what they still do. And Badlands do the shipping, but they're doing it a couple times a week, but it's like a 12 or 24 pack that's sort of predetermined, which is fine because it's very thoughtful the way that Troy does it. But like, this is like, it's just so dope to be able to just walk in and just be like, cool, I'm gonna take the one of each of the Badlands selects and give me all the new Barncat releases and maybe give me some of these bottles. And like, it's just such a great experience for people to be able to sample Ontario
It really
breweries.
is. It really, really is. It's a great experience, and it's such a good place to be. And like as you know, I have had the opportunity to go to Durand myself one time when when you were out of town, and
I was so mad.
and it felt like your city was cheating on you with me. I was
It
there
really
and you
did.
didn't even know. I was
so
there and you
pissed.
didn't even know.
You prick.
But yeah, Durand's a great spot, and it's a case of I really wish I really wish I had that here in Ottawa. And it's not to shit on on Dominion City. I love the Dominion City store, and I buy shit from there all the time, probably once or twice a month. But it's a case of I wish we had a sitch like Durand there where where I would know that I could go in and get every single new Badlands release every single week, which is what you have at Durand. I like where I would know that if there's a Third Moon release that I'm particularly keen for, I know I could go there and they're going to have it every single time.
Yeah.
Like I really wish I had that here. And like the way that I often get these things, as we've talked about before, is through you, because you have access to Durand, and it is often easier for with our little trade system that we have going on, whether it's you shipping it to me or dropping stuff off at my folks, and whatnot. It's easier for me to get and more cost effective to do that than it is to be dropping $50 plus shipping at each individual brewery. Like that would just that just becomes cost prohibitive. Anyway,
100%.
we're going down a bit of a
Yes, we
rabbit
are.
hole on that, but the point is that those kinds of systems made Barncat a lot more accessible
Correct.
to the entire province, which was really, really been a great thing.
I could not agree more. And one of the things, I guess we might as well talk about it now. One of the things that Barncat is just so well known for is their barrel program. They have, we were talking earlier, we've talked about their Crispies, we've talked in depth about their haze, which is just world class and, benchmark quality shit. Their stouts, fucking Christ, they like Rat Queen, the one you're holding up right there, and I have that bottle right here too, ready for I pulled everything out of the cellar. This one's still full. I'm excited to try it, but this is a bourbon.
Yeah, mine's
bourbon,
empty.
Right? Yours empty. Yes, you haven't fucked around. Rat Queen is their big stout, and they've done 800 billion variants of it. So we're holding up the bourbon right here. Both of our personal favorites was the pumpkin spice that they did last fall.
Oh my God, that is, and like if people can get all up my ass about this of it, like, is it a pumpkin beer or not? It's like, it's not really. It's a stout
No.
with spices, but like, if we're not splitting hairs, my favorite pumpkin spice beer of all time, no question.
No question. And the beautiful part, I don't know if I told you this, but there's still a couple left in Duran. So Duran has basically, I don't even want to put this on blast because I don't want everyone to go and scoop them all, but I've been like slowly copying extra stuff. I don't have that many, but I'm like, every time I sort of go, I want to just try and like grab a couple and stash them away because they've still got a bunch of different stuff. So not only was there Rat Queen, so now like it's cool to actually talk this in detail because every time I go back, I'm like, oh, which one do I have already? But I guess it doesn't even matter because you're never going to be able to get these again, and I definitely want to get more. The Rat Queen, this is the only Rat Queens that I have actually right here. Another one we both have, every year they do an annual beer for their anniversary. So I remember you got me 6, which was these 2 different barley wines, one with vanilla.
So 6 were wheat wines, actually.
Wheat wines, I'm so sorry. One was with vanilla and maple, and one was just with maple, I think. Is that right?
That's right.
Beautiful. Spectacular. 7, which I'm very excited about. Gorgeous label. Now, this is something that I've only discovered recently, and this one is a blend of bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout and barley wine. I had one from shouts to my boy Fred, who's the other person I trade with in Montreal. He got me a fucking Bar Canada one, and I could not believe how amazing it was. I was like, are you fucking, is that what this is? So I kind of fronted, to be honest. I like barley wine, but I much prefer stouts but the blend is just something spectacular. So I was very happy to get that. Very excited for that one. One that I got for both of us that you have as well, speaking of barley wine, is this bourbon barrel-aged barley wine called Cat Deactivator. Obviously, there are lots of cat puns with a brewery called Barncat. Yep. This one apparently is gorgeous. I've heard really, really good things. So I'm excited to try that.
And while we're talking about barley wine, one recently that I know Fred went absolute batshit for was the double barrel sweet release. That's the one.
I pulled it out of the fridge, and I'm actually going to put it back on the shelf because I was going to drink it. And now I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't think Durand even has any more of these because Fred fucking bought them all.
Yeah, that's right. Fred bought them all. And so I only had one bottle of this that you got for me, Fred, from Durand. Because Fred let me have one of them, I guess.
Oh, he's generous.
Yeah, I had one and Fred took the rest. I
sent him a case of
beer,
this shit.
Oh my God, it was fucking spectacular. It was so goddamn good.
And it is 14.5%.
And I'm so sad now that I only bought one of them.
I can double check if there's more.
No, there's not. I know there isn't. I've looked on their online stock. If they had any more, I would have asked for it.
Do you know what they have though? They have the cans of the OG sweet release. Yeah, so not the double barrel. So I was gonna get some of the cans just to have for the fuck of it. But yeah, this one is it was looking spectacular. Double barrels is like a thing, and it's interesting that Quebec is known for all barrel aged stuff, but all of a sudden Ontario is doing all these crazy double barrels. So with Third Moon, they did the double barrel barley wine as well for our finisher.
Yep. Oh yeah. The double barrel finisher, that was another excellent one.
So I was sending cases of that and this to Fred, like just obscene amounts of. But I'm basically keeping Durand in business with you guys. Which I love. And yes, go on.
Sorry, I want to keep harping on barley wines for a minute,
please.
because like it's a thing of like they're known so much for their haze, but like really that like Rat Queen and and their barley wines are absolute god tier. And
Yes.
like on the barley wines, and this was something that I was like I was ribbing Jeremy about was like I one on my first visit to Barncat
Mm-hmm.
back in what must have been 2018, I think. Um, in addition to growlers of everything they had on offer at the time, I also grabbed um, bottles of stuff that they had there, and one of it was Green Out, which was an American barley wine,
Yes.
and I've been like, and I was really harping on like on Jeremy when we had him on the pod, is that like bring Green Out back. It was so fucking good. Like so like 12, 13% something, whatever, like whatever it was, and like really hop forward, like American barley wine, um, like a really
Mm.
intense um palate, but so fucking good. I'm like if they were to ask me like Nate, what's one beer you want us to bring back before they close? For me, it would
Be
be
green out.
Green Out, no question. I'm
Interesting.
like I'm crossing my fingers for that, and it's if they do end up bringing that back, I may pull a Fred, and like I may have to fight him for whatever stock is left in Japan.
I don't think Chris would be too upset about that. He'd be moving that shit out the door just between all the homies. Yeah, I love it. I hope they do that, and I hope in general. We were talking about this earlier, and I know we're not doing this pod to, what's the word, just to sort of guess what the fuck they're gonna do or anything. But I would hope that they basically would have a bunch of barrels, and they're going to empty those barrels and just release a whole slew of on top of some, maybe fresh. The final lager was already done. That was that Preston Blade, which was funny in the old. What was the brewery with the basically word art? They had the word art the way it was said from the
Oh, yeah, it was
Grand River, Grand River,
Grand River, yes.
because they used to have the Goat Knife thing. So Preston Blade Goat Knife, I guess, is probably part of that, and it was in that same font. It was spectacular because that was a brewery that I used to buy a lot. Me and Scott actually went there back in the day, and now that brewery is Farm League, who we had on the pod recently. So
The location is.
the location.
The
I'm so
location
sorry.
is.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's be very careful there because because the Grand River Brewery is I
Is
think actually now part of Magnata.
okay. So it's very different. So let me be very clear. So I'm really hoping that they do a bunch more barrel aged stuff. Is really what I'm talking about here. Because the reason, well, one, because this shit is fucking spectacular, particularly Rat Queen, but two, it's some stuff that we can hold on to Barncat for a little bit longer. We can
Yeah.
the haze is gonna die quick. The lagers, they'll last 6 months maybe, but you wouldn't want to go too long. The stouts though, and the barley wines, those bad boys can last quite some time. And personally, that's what I'm really focused on. The other day,
Yeah.
I went and bought these two. They're two different versions of this one called Mother Night. I just looked them up now. One of them has hazelnut, the maple syrup. One's with maple and bourbon barrel. The other one's with maple and hazelnut. One of them is 2022. One of them's from this year. I just actually checked. I think the one with hazelnuts is this year and last year.
Yeah.
Um,
I had the last year one like you got me one of those bottles a little while back. It was
it was
just
great,
amazing.
spectacular.
But yeah, talking about sitting on them, like this one bottle of 7 that I have here, like I don't know when I'm going to be able to crack this. It's going to break my heart, I think.
See, that's what I'm thinking. Now, look, I always try to look at things like in a couple ways. Because, look, let's look at it as they're not going anywhere. Almost every beer that we drink is potentially the first and last time we're going to drink that beer, right? If you look at it in realistic terms. The whether it's the haze, I know someone like Badlands, they do, this is the 2023 version of this particular Mingle July, or if they really want to be specific, of 2023. The next year you have it's going to be a different beer because their water chemistry might be different and the hops will be from a different harvest and so on and so forth. The barrel aged stuff is really the same shit. It's just that they won't even try to make a version of that year. That's the difference. So I try to kind of almost like some people have said, you gotta, life is for living, beer is for drinking. Just fucking crack it. That's the only way I'll be able to bring myself to drink these, and that's the same as you. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh.
Yep. Oh no, yeah, and like, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna crack it open and drink it. I'm not just gonna let it sit forever. But
doesn't make it easy.
I will almost certainly drink this like in the next couple of months. I'm not gonna be sitting on it forever, but it will still make me sad when I do, because there's just something about the fact that it's their last anniversary beer. I'm gonna drink it and I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna sit on it endlessly, but it's still gonna make me sad as all.
Couldn't agree more. Do you know what's interesting? I forgot to tell you that I saw today, because I went to Duran to get coffee today, and I was with Dan, my girlfriend's cousin, and I was just showing in the bottle shop, and I went and checked out the bottle. They still have both versions of Sixth there.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if we're trying to be frisky, if we want to just drop some money. The problem is all of these, I mean, even the Mother Nights, they've got the prices, like, I don't know what they were originally, but these are like $20 basically. The double barrel must be close to $25 a pop.
Yeah, I would think so. And you know what? It's not cheap, but it's also not a huge markup either. I think that's no more than like $2 or $3 over what Barncat would have been selling them for, which is very, very reasonable.
And Chris drives there. You were talking about Farrell. Shasta, I was talking to him the other day. He's going to be in town this weekend, actually. He drives there too. Chris does it every single week because of the proximity. He drives to Badlands. He drives to Third Moon. He drives to Barncat. Like, that fucking guy's putting miles on his whip. He must be listening to podcasts out the asshole. And it's a lot of work for him. So for only adding a couple bucks to the releases, to me, it's very he's absolutely not trying to bleed anybody. He's just passionate about beer and wants to support the breweries. That's why I want to support him, because he makes my life easier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's so cool, man. It's so
cool.
It's so cool that you've got that right in your backyard.
And he texted me too. We made friends. He helped me find the area he wanted to live in before I even knew him well. Met him for the first time. He fucking spent an hour with us in his busy cafe and schooling us on all the different areas. And when Badlands, the select stuff, I was talking to you about it, we were considering doing an order because we weren't sure if they were going to get it, because it depends if it all sold out at the brewery. And then as soon as the next day, he was like, hey, getting the selects on Thursday, come through. I'm like, my man. And it came through, got everything, got some for you, got the shit for me, boom, boom. I appreciate that. I appreciate him a lot, and I just want his business to thrive. His coffee's my favorite in the city. It's a vibe. He's got a wine/beer bar opening in the back. It actually had one. Yeah. I don't know if I told you this. It burnt down, and now they're pretty close. They're supposed to open next month. So if you come down, it's going to be my new spot. It's 8 minutes from the crib. I'm trying to convince him to get a Luca tap to do that, so he can just get fucking some Godspeed or Sun and Hill or whatever, some fire shit like that.
And you know what? You'll probably be mad at this for to hear this since you were away at the time. But we talk about innovation so often. Talking about innovation at the coffee shop, because I was there on Easter weekend and they had a Cadbury mini egg latte.
What they do?
And that so of course I got that to go, and it was delicious.
Do you know what? That Shasta Tyra, so she's the assistant manager, and she comes up with all of those things. She makes the syrups for she's such a fucking G.
That's fucking brilliant. That's fucking brilliant.
Huge shouts to her. I'll tell her, shout her on the pod too. She's the best. She's young, super young. She's 22, 23, but she's super mature, and she reps for us so much. She saved the rest of the pumpkin spice syrup that she made, telling everyone it was out, and she saved the very last of it for me and Tiff because she knew that we loved it so much.
Oh, no way.
That's why it's my favorite place. That's why I want to support it so bad, because it's not just the owner that's the homie who's a G, but the staff are fantastic. They know us. They take care of us. That's the institutions, and they are advocates for brands like Barncat and for other brands that we really care about, and they help them live on in the communities who can't always get there, and they introduce people to them, and that's what's up with that. And on that note, Nathaniel,
yes,
it's time.
It's time.
Time for breakfast.
Time for breakfast.
Kind of perfect for being as Pride Month for this beer. Am I right? Get it? Breakfast Queen from Barncat Ales. Now, this was a artisan ales. I'm sorry. This is even a funner one to talk about because it's a bourbon barrel.
It is.
Oh, I forgot it's bourbon barrel aged. Fuck yes. 11.5%. I absolutely will not be able to drink anything else tonight. With coffee, and the coffee is from. Do you remember who the coffee was from?
I want to say it's from Morning Roast.
I think you're right. Let me just double check.
I bet it's from Morning Roast.
Breakfast Queen. Morning Roast coffee with Brazil Natural Arara coffee. And it's brewed for Third Moon's Breakfast Club, which we can talk about that whole concept, which was fucking very smart. And
oh, I love that. I love that
kind of
so
like
much.
under the radar almost.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I'm gonna be using my Arabella Park glass here, which I already mentioned. Look at this sexy glass here.
That's so hot. Your glassware game, to be honest, bro, is very, very fantastic. I feel like you always come through the pods and you have a fucking hoodie or you have this like glass from a brewery that I had no idea that you had. I'm like, man, that's fucking sick.
I do like the merch.
You know what? You're a supporter. You're a true supporter of craft beer.
That's right.
In this phenomenal province that in which we are blessed to reside.
We are indeed.
So for
and thank you. My glassware game is pretty good. It's one of those cases. I was just visiting our friend Noah this weekend, and as you know, he's probably one of the only ones who absolutely decimates my glassware collection to shame. It's not even on any kind of equivalent level. His glassware game is is on the level of Chris from Third Moon's his kind of whole his beer basement cellar. Yeah. It's just
insane. I mean, Noah was very smart the way he approaches that, because when he did the photos, he always asked the breweries when they send the beer to, hey, send the glassware. So because his photos were very glassware dependent, it was his sort of way of he didn't do it because he wanted the glasses necessarily. He just...
No. It's because his his artwork was incredibly deliberate and very tailored to kind of accentuate the artistic nature of beer in glassware with very, very good quality photography. So it's it's worth it's worth them sending him glassware to end up with some just absolute fire quality photos.
Yes, so I couldn't agree more. I really hope Noah is still inspired enough to do craft beer content. I know he's sort of taking a bit of a hiatus at the moment, but I feel like his voice is valued and needed in Quebec. No one really has an understanding like him. Maybe we should do a pod with just me, you, and Noah again if we can convince him to get back on. That might be fun.
You know what? He'd probably be willing to do one with just the two of us. I think
that's so probably
too. That's probably a lot less pressure than doing one with a guest.
That's what I was thinking, and we'll be able to make sure we all drink the same thing, whatever it is. Just ship some stuff around, even if it's a bit from Quebec, a bit from whatever here, whatever. We could do a little package.
Shouldn't be too hard. I'm sure we can make it work.
Yeah, let's definitely talk to him about that. But on this beer,
yes,
the last time of drinking Breakfast Queen. Sadly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're lucky to have both had it before. And when we were planning out the beers to do for this pod, it was and I remember thinking as we were looking at what was available at Durand, I was thinking man, this was so fucking good the last time. We got to have this one again. This would be a perfect closer. So, as we were saying, Breakfast Queen, part of Third Moon's Breakfast Club series. It is a bourbon barrel aged Rat Queen Imperial Stout with coffee from Morning Roast.
Jesus Lord. Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Oh my God, the nose is insane.
Oh my goodness, this is spectacular. Do you know what? This is better than I remembered. I normally don't drink this type of beer after having the other types of beers that I just had. But you know what? Tonight is a dedication, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna.
Yeah, you usually reserve this shit for Big Beer Wednesday, right?
Big Beer Wednesday, and
or your no drinking night, as we call it.
Yes, and I've had to. Yeah, I know. I actually decided to make Big Beer Wednesday official, and then I brought back Tuesdays, just because of the sheer volume of beer right now, and because we're doing so many podcasts. And I know this is very, very first world problems, but when you're doing podcasts, we're drinking the beers from the podcast, so that it's not assisting me in getting through the volume that I have. Like I went to Duran today and I'm like, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. I'm like, I can't, because I just got a shipment from you, and I have Masorum and Brewski and Sankiem and a bunch of shit.
And we've got 2 pods next week, and
already got 2 pods next week. So literally the only drinking night I have this week, because I had a podcast on Tuesday as well with an American brewery. So literally tomorrow night is my own, and aside from the Big Beer Wednesday of some stouts, tomorrow night being Saturday is my only like free drinking night that wasn't a pod in the whole week, which is kind of crazy. And that's my fucking problem. Once again, extraordinary first world problem. People are going to say shut the fuck up, and I understand, that's fair. It's just I'm trying to get through the volume, and there's so many things. Like you have to, it's opportunity cost. You're like, oh, I'm going to take this and not take this, and it's really rough. And I'm like, tonight, whilst I would like to go through volume, I feel like this is special because we get to drink Barncat beers and just soak it up and marinate on it. And, you know, this is 11.5%, a barrel-aged stout in a can with some gorgeous coffee, morning roasted, some phenomenal stuff. I actually had a chat with the dude, and he sent me a bunch of, like, sample bags, I think when I was still in Montreal. And it was so fire because there was so many different types of coffee. They do some great stuff, and they work with Third Moon a lot. So obviously, you know, great people.
Yeah, they do. I think I think they do a lot of stuff in the Each Beast of God ones.
Which is, yes, they do. I think it's almost like, I wouldn't about to say exclusively. That's probably not true, but you know, that's a lot, you know. So it's very, very cool to see what they're you know, what they're doing in the world of beer. You know, because when a roaster like that is working with so many breweries, like
you love to see that.
I love to see
Just
it
love to see that.
There's an understanding of the industry, so it's very cool that, of course, the Barncat connected with them. But their stouts, like Rat Queen, is just, it's going to be, like, I don't even know if this is a hot take, but maybe Rat Queen's going to be the most missed out of everything. The haze, game changer.
I think so.
Game changer.
I think so. It's a case of there are other people who have stepped in to the haze scene that are just as good. Like, you know, like you've got your Badlands, you've got your Third Moon. There's people who have stepped into that space.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the barrel aged imperial stout and the barley wine game, I don't know. Like there are some very good ones, no question, but I don't know that anyone has come quite as close to Rat Queen in Ontario.
I don't think so. I just really don't think so. I remember the first time I had Rat Queen, shouts to Ren Navarro hooked me up with some bottles of some stuff, and she gave me a bottle of, I think it was vanilla Rat Queen. This must have been 2018, 2019. And this was before Big Beer Wednesday, which I only discovered some sort of moderation during the pandemic, which I'm grateful for because I feel like it's made my beer drinking a little more intelligent. But sometimes I would be like, I have 2-3 beers, and I'd be like, yeah, I can have a 10% stout right now, like a fucking idiot. And remember, I busted out the vanilla Rat Queen on a night at the end of the night, and I was like, after cracking it and pouring it, I'm like, I am way too drunk for this. And I shared it with Tiff, but she probably had 3/4 of it, and I had 1/4 of it. And it was my first Rat Queen. I could not believe how good it was. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I drank too much of it, it'd be a larger problem that I was willing to deal with for me at that evening. But it just opened my eyes to how good Rat Queen was, and I'd heard about it, and once again didn't have easy access to bottles and stuff. And now, obviously, thanks to Duran, there's a bunch of stuff, and they've been pumping them out. I think I've had the rye version of it. This is a bourbon that we both had. I got the blue label, which was the rye barrel, phenomenal. Obviously, the pumpkin.
Yep.
There's just so many different variants that are just killer, and it's I really hope, bro, that there's more coming before.
Oh my God.
I know it's summer and it's the least likely thing, but fuck, if they're gonna empty their barrels and just put together some blends or whatever it is, just
Yep. Like honestly, even if it's the only barrel ace that comes out, like if Green Out comes again, like I'm gonna be a happy guy. But let's talk about this beer. Let's talk about this beer for a second. Like,
yeah, talk about the concept.
Again,
the
like just
moon.
an absolute masterclass in barrel-aged imperial stout. Like, there's so much vanilla
good.
character that comes off of this, and there's no vanilla in this beer. This is all barrel.
All barrel. Some
It's
beautiful coffee.
like there's so much of that that comes off of it, and how that and how that vanilla character blends with the coffee just makes for such like a luscious like kind of smooth frothy latte kind of vibe going on to it. It's just insane.
It's impeccable. So this is your second time having it as well. Sorry, camera died. I feel like this is better than the first time I had it, and I can't put my finger on why, but it just feels like it's even like maybe. And this was canned in February.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me have to add you back again. There we go. February 22nd. So as of recording, it is June. So it's about 4 months old, just shy.
Yep.
I feel that it's almost like maybe mellow. Maybe when I had it, like obviously it was phenomenal, but I almost feel like it's better now. I feel like it's like maybe mellowed a bit because the coffee might have been a bit sharp or something. Maybe things are kind of like just sat. And this is in a can, not even in a bottle.
Yeah.
This is so deeply exceptional. So exceptional.
It's so fucking good.
And
It's
just
so good. And like this is like, and it's rich. It's so rich and and it's smooth and velvety. The texture is just unmatched.
You're so right. And the bourbon,
It's
the oak,
Yep.
the vanilla,
Yep.
the
Like
coffee, and the
like and
chocolate.
it's got a hit of of heat to it on on the end. And like that's I wouldn't even say that it's like a boozy heat, but it's almost just more of the like kind of a woody kind of thing like coming off the barrel to it, because it does not taste like alcohol burn at all.
No.
It's just like a really, really pleasant warmth. This is, my God, this is just exceptional.
It makes me sadder drinking this
Yeah.
right now because I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, man. They still had more cans, so maybe we're going to get more for us or something of this, because I wonder how long this will sit. The thing is, we know that these bottles will sit for a bit, but how long would it sit in a can? I mean, maybe it's okay. Sit for another 6 to 12 or something like that. Like,
I think it's probably fine.
I think it's
I think
probably
it's
fine
probably
too.
fine. Yeah.
I kind of just feel like now it's like even just drinking these beers tonight and really reminiscing and focusing on it and looking at it, I just feel like, this is not enough. I feel like I just need to drop them. Like, once again, it's an investment, but it's like some of the best beer that this province has ever seen across the board. And if, like, money is ephemeral, it's transitory, it's, whatever you put out comes back to you, whatever, so...
Yeah.
Fuck it, like supports Duran, supports Barncat, make sure that, I mean, they already got their money, I guess, but, keeps Duran so
Yeah.
they don't sit on the stock, and it's...
Well, then, yeah, like all I can say is that whenever I've been sipping on a barrel-aged beer from Barncat, be it Rat Queen, be it a barley wine, whatever the case is, as I'm having that sip, I guarantee you, I'm not thinking about the $18 or $20 that I spent on that bottle.
Not even for a fraction of a second.
I'm certainly not regretting that at that time. So
No.
I can tell you that right now, and that was true even before they were closing. So and it's doubly true now. I'm really really glad that we got this one again, because it was so good the first time, and it's so good now.
This was your call, and so thank you for making this call, because when you called, I was like, maybe we should get, because they have a West Coast called like Old School or something like that. I was like, maybe we should get that or whatever, and like you made this call. I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I feel like this is just better than I remembered, and maybe I probably had it in February or March or something like that, because when this thing, which we should talk about in a sec, but I'm just, fuck man, this is so good. So this is obviously they had this beer brewing anyway, and they just put it out for this. But basically, Third Moon did this thing called Breakfast Club, and they rounded up a bunch of phenomenal breweries: Bellwoods, Badlands, Barncat, Willowbold, Counterpart.
Dominion City, Rorschach, Merritt.
Yep, all A1 phenomenal breweries that you would expect across Ontario, and they were like, hey, make a beer that you would like to drink with breakfast, and we're going to release it around this time. Well, I guess was end of February. I think it was basically an initiative to encourage beer sales during the quiet time, which I think is genius.
Yep.
So shouts to Bebo and Chris for that.
Brilliant.
Barncat decided to come with this one. There were some phenomenal beers in that whole time. Bebo and Chris came with, Jeremy Mack came with this one. And obviously you're not just going to have a, bourbon barrel aged beer out the arse. Like they would have had this pre-prepared, and we're like, you know what, let's make this for the Breakfast Club. And it's even, Breakfast Queen, it's Rat Queen, it's tying it all in. It's just, it's money, bro. Like it's so cool that they did something. I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like you had almost more of them than I did. Was there any other barrel aged ones for the Breakfast Club?
Not of the ones that I tried.
Okay, I don't remember either. So then this could have been the only one, and whether it was, and that's okay to just be like, oh, we've got this beer here, we could just chuck coffee in that shit. This is what I drink for breakfast, an 11.5% bourbon barrel aged coffee stout. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and it's a case of like, we all love a bourbon barrel aged stout, but from those of us that love the likes of Péché Mortel and whatnot, coffee, bourbon barrel aged, even not bourbon barrel aged stout, but like a coffee imperial stout is absolute perfection.
Everything.
And like coffee bourbon barrel aged stout, like
good, get out of my face.
Kill me.
Pour it down my mouth. Just pour it.
Yeah. It's perfection. You can't ask for better than that. The Breakfast Club was a phenomenal idea. It's not surprising that there were a lot of coffee stouts that came out of that. It's there was probably more of that than anything else. That was certainly the experience of what I saw. A couple of the ones that went in different directions were not surprising. Not surprising at all that Rorschach went very silly with it and did like a breakfast cereal, like IPA or something like that. Love them for that.
The best.
Merritt did something very cool, like with a Hefeweizen with banana and spices. I think oats. I can't remember. I think they called it like an overnight oats Hefeweizen, which I thought was really cool. It was a good idea to kind of and no shade at all at anyone who did a coffee stout. Like that was an obvious choice for a good reason, because coffee stouts are fucking delicious. But I thought it was really cool that Merritt came up with a super original idea with like an overnight oats Hefeweizen.
I love that. Shouts to Spinny. I love Merritt so much, and their link up beer was exceptional. They're being very, very creative lately with a lot of their shit. We're doing like that as a stout called Nowhere that was like a blend with wine, and it poured like this crimson.
Oh my god!
I've been meaning to go get some cans of that. Look crazy.
It's just bananas. It's
Yeah, man.
bananas.
Super proud of that. But yeah, it was just such a really cool initiative. Almost now, like as you were kind of talking about it and mentioning some of the different beers, I'm like, fuck, this should have got more promo. Like I feel like it should have been talked about more. And I mean, maybe it was just, maybe we should have offered a pod or something with the boys to like, you know, let's drink a bunch of these beers and talk about it. It would have been dangerous ass podcast, fucking hell, because there are so many of them.
Oh,
So big.
that would have been hard. The only one I can think, like I think there's only two or three that I can think of that were under 8%. To be like, because I mean, like Rorschach's was probably like a 5 or 6. Merritt's was probably like a 6-ish or something like that. Dominion, who did like a chocolate pancake stout, theirs was actually only like 4.5, which is wild.
Wow, chocolate pancake stat is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just really cool thing, and I guess it allowed Barncat once again to flex. You know, Rat Queen, which is almost like it's almost like funny because they're just like flexing, like, yeah, that's right.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's
Just like it's like, yeah, well, you know what? We've got these barrels of rad cream. Add some fucking coffee to it, and
boom, boom, boom.
done and done. And like, you know what? Like that's almost unfair. Like you can't compete with that.
It does feel unfair. It feels completely unfair, but you know that's what we loved them for, and that's why this is, you know, like this is why they're going to be so greatly missed. What do you think? Like, if you were to describe someone who hadn't had Barncat before, like, what makes them, like, why are they so good? Like, what makes them so incredible at what they do you think?
So you know what? I feel like Evan from the Wheeled Brew described it best when like because this announcement had come out when we recorded that episode,
Yes, it did.
and and that was episode 130, as you said. So that's another good one to listen to.
Definitely check that.
That's like what he was saying was that Matt and Jeremy just really love brewing, and with kind of like it kind of says in everything, like in everything about their operation, from the simplicity of their social media and kind of like, and just kind of like the really bare bones style of their operation. Retail stores open like 2 days a week, 9 hours total, kind of thing. Um, it's all about brewing for them, and I don't think there's any other brewery that we've spoken to that really that really committed entirely to only brewing what they wanted to brew and doing it so fucking well from soup to nuts. Just like every single beer that they made was something that they wanted to make. They've never brewed a beer in their life that they felt like they had to brew.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, I don't think the haze game in this province would be what it is today without them. I think that is what made them the brewery that they are. I mean, like, I think that really what makes them unbeatable is their barrel program and their stouts and their barley wines. But I think their biggest impact on the scene really has to be their haze, because I think that they were doing something that almost no one else was doing, and they were doing it in a way that really no one else was doing it, certainly at the time when it first started. And I think they can take a lot of credit for kind of turning people in Ontario on to what that style can really be before anyone else was doing it.
Fucking well said. I really think that's it, man. They changed the game in multiple ways for multiple styles, predominantly haze and barrel-aged stouts. And the great thing is that fortunately one of those two we can keep around for a bit longer to continue to remember their legacy and what they've contributed in all of our various cellars or cupboards or fridges or whatever it might be, to just be able to crush them over the next few years in reality.
Yep.
Those beers should be at pretty reasonable levels for quite a while, depending on the level of adjuncts. Yeah, man, I don't think we're understating their contribution to the scene, and
I
if you,
really don't think so.
I feel like anyone.
I know how much I know how much they meant to me when I first got started in the scene, and I know a lot of people got started in it around the same time that I did, and I know that they mean as much to a lot of people in Ontario as as they did to me. There's no question, and you can look no further than the comment section on the post that they announced their closure. Just the love that they get from craft beer consumers, but also from everyone in the scene who they've inspired, who has really been an inspiration to them, like whether it's in their haze, whether it's in their in their imperial stout program, whatever it is, anyone who's worked with them, anyone who's collabed with them, it's just an absolute shower of love that you can see in that comment section from that announcement. That you can really feel the love that everyone has for them, and and kind of the pain that everyone is is feeling from the loss of them in the scene.
Once again, well said. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better, bro. That's what it is. So if you're not familiar, I mean, like, fuck, please go if you're able to get access to Barncat beers. You know, do yourself a favor and grab that. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go listen to episode 95 with Nate and I and Jeremy to understand a bit more about it, and go check it at Barncat. Is it Barncat Artisan Ales? I don't know why I just forgot all of a sudden. I've been on there. Barncat Ales. Barncat Ales.
Yeah, the Instagram handle is Barncat Ales.
So go check that out. Look at the comments, and just we'll see what Nate's talking about, man. Like, 7 years of brewing might not seem like a lot, but fucking hell, man. Like, this is some very, very serious, love that people are giving them, and their importance to the scene is not underestimated under any circumstances. We're not or overestimated, actually, sorry, is what I'm saying. Like, we are not boosting. This is
not at all.
Huge loss for Ontario and Canada as a whole, and perhaps beyond, because you know what, I was just checking out these Mother Nights, and I saw my friend Jared, who's a brewer at Mortalis in upstate New York, and he was drinking Mother Night and giving it high ratings and stuff, and like, this stuff spreads, man. Like, this is not a joke. Like, this shit is for real. So I would if anyone's able to get their hands on anything, whether it's from trading, whether it's getting down to Barncat, whether it's supporting your bottle shops, whatever it is, before they wrap up at the end of August. Right now recording, it's mid-June. We'll drop this in a couple weeks, so it'll probably be late June by the time this is out, but this is just something that Nate and I wanted to do, to just pay a little bit of homage and say thank you to Matt and Jeremy for everything that you've contributed to craft beer, and your legacy will live on, whether it's through your beers or through the people that you've inspired to continue to create phenomenal craft beer in Ontario. And hopefully both of you, or at the very least one of you, will still remain in some shape or form involved in beer. I don't know what you have planned for your futures, but we wish you the best on everything, and just, I think it's really, we're just grateful for everything you've contributed. You've inspired Nate and I. We've enjoyed very, very much drinking everything that you've done, and I couldn't even say I've had a great beer from Barncat. It's been exceptional every single time. There's not average, it's not great, it's fucking exceptional, and I don't think I'm fucking boosting in any shape or form by saying that.
Nah, you're really not. Couldn't agree more. It's like, we really can't overstate kind of the impact that you've had on the scene, and and the love that we have for you, for the beers that you put out, and and the impact that you've had. on the scene to like from the consumers to the brewers that have come after you. It's and again, like we were saying, the comments on that post speak for themselves. You know, you can really feel the love from every corner of the province. Anyone who's ever worked with you, everyone who's who's ever interacted with you, and really like everything else from there. Um, like and a couple of other things that I'll add. Jeremy, I'm sorry for drunkenly talking your ear off at at Dominion City for like when we were at the festival there.
Oh, the
I
Ruby
was a bit.
place.
Oh geez, I was starstruck, and it was the end of the night, and I was drunk. I was drunkenly talking his ear off, and I'm sure I was being really fucking annoying, but I couldn't control myself. Um, and
On the pod,
one
he said
last,
it was cool. He said you were cool, but
he
you know,
did, he did, he did. He was very nice about it. Um, the one last thing that I'll add is that, like, I think a lesson to take away from this is that with the economic circumstances that we find ourselves in this province and and really everywhere, because we know this is happening everywhere.
globally, yeah.
It's hard for everyone right now. The beer scene is is hurting. It's hard for everyone. Sales are slumping. Ingredient costs are rising. Um, Fees for everything from shipping to taxes to to you name it. It's always going up. Um, it's just getting harder and harder. There's no one that this is getting easier on. If there's someone who if there's someone who is making a product that you enjoy, on the regular, support them as much as you can, because
Facts.
no one is immune from this. Even your favorite brewery, if you think they're the best in the province and everyone loves them, no one is immune from the difficulties of the current time. So support them as much as you can. To whatever is within your means, because of course it's hard for the consumer as well. I don't want to put undue responsibility on people who are who are also facing difficulties right now, because it really is tough for everyone right now. But it's just a reminder that no one is immune from this. So support the businesses that are important to you.
Fucking well said, bro. I feel like you're just dropping gems this last like 20 minutes. Nate is just
I,
like
I'm,
it's like
I'm
Oprah.
well. I'm really just speaking from the heart here, man.
No, I
Like this,
appreciate you, man. I
because
knew you would do
because
this.
this loss hurt. This one
Yeah,
really hurt.
this was rough. This was really rough. I think a lot of us feel it. I know you felt it a little deeper than I am, just because you got into them a little earlier than I did, and I was sort of a little later to the game. But it's really rough, and the thing is, this was unexpected. I know we said that in the
Yeah.
beginning, but we didn't expect it. And like you said very, very eloquently, this could happen to anyone, and we just need to, if it's like the equivalent of giving people their flowers while they're alive type of thing. And their flowers in this case are the money. Keep that business alive. If you and this goes beyond just your craft brewery. Obviously, that's what we're focused
Yes.
on here. But if you love your local cafe, go there. To whatever it is in your means, go there once a week. It doesn't have to be every day. Once a week, and get your favorite drink and support them, or your favorite restaurant, or your favorite supermarket that's not a mainstream one, or clothing store, whatever it might be. Like, small businesses hurt. We lost, last I heard, it was 10,000 restaurants during the pandemic because of all the lockdowns. We lost forever. That's crazy. One of my favorite, called Agricole, a Haitian restaurant in Montreal, closed down forever. And it was like, apparently it was like unequivocally the best in the city. So like, there's a lot of loss that we've had with regard to that. And then now in beer, that part of time is done with, but now it's a different challenge. And the challenge is, just like then, where to every business, it's a little different now, but it's still challenging. And some businesses might be like, it's better to close our doors than to keep going. And I understand and respect that. Doesn't mean make it hurt any less, because small businesses are the heart of communities, and communities are what we all live in. And we're all a bunch of people living in communities, helping each other out, just trying to fucking get by. And craft beers are a community hub, as we just talked about in depth last night. with Wavemaker in Cambridge. You know, community hubs are incredibly important. And we have to just get behind them, behind any business that means something to you. So whatever it is, you know, right now, particularly we're talking about breweries. So, you know, like Nate said, nobody is immune. Anything can happen. This was a surprise, not just to us, the beer drinking community, but I've never spoken to anybody in beer about it. Now, I haven't spoken to like 20 people, but I've spoken to a handful of folks, and everybody was surprised. Nobody was like, oh, yeah, I could see that happening. Nobody, bro. Like, these guys were renowned. We couldn't do a 2-hour episode just, you know, on a brewery that was kind of meh. Like, it doesn't happen.
No.
These guys are fucking game changers, and they will forever be remembered. Their legacy is cemented. So support your people, and if you're able to get hands on anything from Barncat over the next couple months while things are available, do yourself a fucking favor and do that, whether it's directly at the brewery or through your favorite bottle shop. It's they're going to be dearly, dearly missed, man. I'm very happy that you and I did this. Thank you again for suggesting to do this. This is very meaningful. I feel conflicted but lighter, maybe, of getting all of this off our chest and putting it, you know, in concrete for everyone to hear and hopefully commiserate together. You could listen to this and drink some Barncat and shed a little tear, just a little quiet tear, and, you know, just think about what they did for you and just pay homage, man. Like, it's you know, beer is not just, we've both been in it for a bit, and I know a lot of people listening have been drinking for a long time. A lot of people have been into it a lot longer than us, and they'll understand exactly what we're talking about. I'm sure they have a bunch of stories. So if people do have stories, you want to share it with us, you know, when we post the reel and stuff, leave it in the comments or DM us, and maybe we'll bring it up in a separate thing. And I'd love to hear if anyone has specific stories about Barncat. I think that would be really dope to hear that too, you know?
Or you know what, maybe what we can also do in like tying it into when the episode launches, we can put out a call for like a short Barncat like one-liner or whatnot that we can repost in stories or something like that.
That's a great idea.
Something that I'll say as well, when we post the reels for this, because this will be coming out in a couple of weeks in late June, because we've got we'll have another month at that point, for the month of July, that they'll be throwing out new releases. I mean, I'm sure they've already got the schedule of what's going out, so, you know, it's not going to influence anything, but just tell us what you're hoping to see in the next month. Like, which beers are you hoping to, that they're going to bring back? What are you really hoping that you're going to see in the final month of releases of Barncat? Like, what are your favorites that you're hoping will come back? I've already mentioned Green Out, as a barley wine. Another one that I'm hoping to see again, one of my all-time favorites, is Cats in Space. They're they're all Galaxy, they're all Galaxy Double IPA. That's one of my all-time favorites from them.
That's one of mine too, because you got it for me, and I just meant it was just so I can't express how much that meant at the time, of how much, just like, oh my god, I'm drinking Barncat, like I lost my shit. I agree. I feel like that too, and I'd love to see the Vanilla Rat Queen if they bring that back, because I feel like I didn't get to soak it up enough. Tiff certainly did. I'm happy for her, and I got some of it, but I was a little too lit. But yeah, man, this has been really great. We'll post all this stuff to make it a little more engaging for everybody, because we just want to celebrate, and hopefully Barncat can, you know, Matt and Jeremy can see everything and just understand how appreciated and valued they are by the whole drinking community, and of course the actual industry themselves. So I'm sure they know, but it's always cool to see it and just get your flowers a little bit. And it does hurt and it stings that this is happening, and I just wish them both well, and whatever happens next, I hope they're successful and they thrive and they just have a great career in whatever they choose to do. You know, they contribute a lot to the scene, and they should be appreciated and celebrated as such. And I hope they feel the love from all of this, you know.
I hope so too.
Yeah, my brother. So let's do the thumbnail, and we'll take this bad boy home.
Yep, let's do it.
We'll see if I can get all three of these. I feel like we can.
I mean, that shouldn't be too hard. It's easier than 6 that we do sometimes, you know.
I know, right? Here we go. I haven't done it for a while. I used to have to do this all this fucking time. There we go.
I mean, yeah, it's harder for you because you've got to actually take the screenshot. But
Yeah, I've got to always like, here we go. Okay, I got one hand, but we good. Okay, yeah, hold out that bad boy. All right, you ready? Hang on, wait. Fuck. Here we go. Stunning. Nathaniel. Well, first of all, everyone can get Barncat Ales on Instagram. And it's probably barncatales.com. If you want to just know what they're doing, what they're up to. They're actually dropping the beers online, beers for this week. The bottles and cans. They have the Dream Team IPA, the Preston Blade Corn Lager, Sweet Release Barley Wine, the OG, and a mix from Saison. Right now for beers for this weekend, June 16th and 17th. As of recording, you will hear this a little later, so make sure you check their website to go see what else they are doing. Nathaniel, where can everyone find you online, sir?
You can find me everywhere at NathanDoesBeer and right here on BAOS Podcast.
You know the fucking vibes. We're here every week, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening and reminiscing with us, because this was a different thing for us tonight. And it was, I feel great after this. This was really good, brother. Guys, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell, Nathaniel,
Ding.
so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and check out the long form audio. We drop every Wednesday. Right now we have the audio in the morning and the video in the evening. We're dropping the link up, so you'll still see the link up series on Mondays at the moment until that wraps up, and we'll kick that back in sometime in the summer when the next series wraps. Guys, stay tuned. Throw us 5 stars, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just go send Barncat some love. Just go tell them what they meant to you, and tell us what they meant to you, because we want to share it. We want to keep talking about it, keep that conversation going. Appreciate y'all for watching and listening. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Cheers.